Buddy.
Howdy.
Let's see. We got Jack. Jack made it back. Chris is up, enjoying a cup of coffee this morning. Victor. Hello, Victor. Jim from Louisiana. Got any crawfish down there? Steve in Minnesota. Wait a minute. We got two Steves in Minnesota?
It's identity theft, I tell you.
Yeah. Well, Steve. Meet Steve. Let's see. Sharon, how are you? And Gary, I think that's a new name. I don't recall any specific Garys. Mark up in North Carolina, hello to you. That looks like most everybody that's commenting. Tom out in Phoenix, nice and dry out there. North Alabama. Larry Broom. Larry, did you get your machine up and running? I know you was having some trouble with it the other day. Steve. Oh, man, there's getting so many people in here. I'm just going to start saying, hey, everybody. Michael Jamia from Canada, one of your neighbors in Canada. Your neighbor to the north. Hey, what you got? You got a new mic right there?
I've had this one a while, but
Oh, sweet.
I just bumped it.
I thought the tech wars had begun again.
I mean, if you want to. I mean, this is a Shure M7 mic, on a boom mic,
Whoa,
whatever
look
mount.
at you.
So,
See, all I got is this Elgato.
yeah. Well, I used to do some podcasting stuff with some friends in the RC hobby, and so I've kind of gotten used to having things
Yeah,
mounted up.
Yeah, guys, I'm sorry if I can't call off everybody's name, but it's gotten to where it's way more people. Unless Steve will take a turn. A lot of folks. We'll be doing roll call for a little while there. Hey, Brian made it. Look at there.
Well, you don't have to be worried.
Yeah, well, you never know about Brian. Brian, sometimes he'll make it, sometimes he won't. Sometimes I think he just likes watching the after show. I saw a question up here earlier. Was it Gary? Was asking. Let me see if I can find it again. He's asking. Oh, you done found it, ain't you?
I think so. Yep.
Yep. And I'm not sure I'm following on this question, Gary. So you may have to explain it further. Are you talking about our Facebook, YouTube accounts, or Restream, or what are we talking about?
Well, in this one, he's asking about the YouTube accounts, and so, but there's the earlier one that was Spintary's Workshop and Clack Check set as separate accounts from your original accounts and profiles. So, you can do it one of both ways. You can create it off of your root Gmail Google account, or you can create a new profile and create a Google page and create a YouTube account and all the Google related things. Same thing with Facebook. I mean, you can set one up separate, but usually it's nice to have a base account that it's tied to, and then that also kind of helps give you a back way into it if you were ever to have some issues. But
yeah, I think they did away with faceless accounts now. You have to have a personal account and connected to it.
On Facebook, yeah.
Yeah, I ran it. I lost a page because of that
Mm-hmm.
when they changed that rule, and I wasn't aware of it.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, they are. So mine, both of mine are kind of linked to my primary account.
see, this is what happened. Decline if you're watching. This is what happened. You get friends come over to your house and just take advantage of the situation. I'm gonna shut that machine down now since those are finished for the moment. I'll finish those tomorrow. But yeah, as far as my Facebook, my YouTube channel, it was actually my personal one, and I just kind of changed it into the Clack Shack once it got, because it kind of spiraled out of control. I didn't really plan on it becoming what it has. So it was actually my personal YouTube that I just used to share videos. Yeah, decline. I told Steve what you did to me. I told him, come over here. It's stole a machine, stole a lens, and then left me with a bunch of business cards to burn. Just ridiculous.
I mean, sounds like a shrewd businessman.
Yeah. And then he's wanting to, and then I got to loan him my shop for Friday because I'm going to be at May's event Friday and Saturday. So he's wanting to use the shop. So it's just been a mess.
Wow.
But yeah.
That's what friends are for.
One of your neighbors is calling in a favor up there.
Live up in Fridley. I think your message got cut off there.
My message got cut off.
Well, it says
Yeah.
have time one day that he could.
Yeah.
It's like that
Maybe.
It's like that Monty Python sketch where it's like "Arr," it just kind of trails off as he's scribbling it on the cave wall.
Brian said he's only missed 3 shows since March. Hey, Brian, that's awesome, dude. That is awesome. Good job. Good job. Good job.
So here's a quick one. Angel's asking, would it benefit to invest in a laser cutter doing woodworking? And I guess it would depend on what kind of woodworking you're doing, but generally I would say yes, because if you're doing smaller things like making customized gift boxes and keepsake boxes and whatnot, the engraver can do a lot to customize those. But even on larger pieces of furniture, you can add specialty inlays. You can even just do custom engravings on the piece, whether it's your maker's mark kind of on the bottom, or maybe whoever you're making it for wants a custom engraving added to it. It could be something that can definitely be a kind of there's a term for that, kind of an add-on.
Yeah.
The extra thing that you could definitely, since it's customization, there's a lot of chance to make some extra money out of that and make the products that you're making just that much extra special to the recipients. So definitely something I've done in some of my general woodworking is being able to use it to add that extra little bit of customization to it.
Yeah, and that's actually how I got started with lasers. Is I was, doing the sawmill stuff and doing some small woodworking. I was making shelves and, little small picture frames, like rustic picture frames and stuff like that. And I basically got the laser originally so that because I have this thing when I build stuff, especially big projects that take days and days and days. I would always find me a spot somewhere hidden underneath it or something to get me a Sharpie, and just whatever hit me that week or whatever, I would write a Bible verse under the bottom of it, like hiding it somewhere, and then I'd put the date and my initials. And I was like, it'd be really cool if I could do that with I started out wanting to get one of the wood burning kits, and then I realized I wasn't coordinated enough to use one of those without burning myself, and so I decided to go with a laser instead. And that was why I originally got the laser. And then I started out doing like making picture frames for pictures in the house. Like I've got some pictures of me and my wife when we first got together, and I made this cool frame out of poplar, and then I put it on the laser and engraved the date we got married and our names and stuff around it, and started putting pictures on Facebook. And that's when everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, I need one of those! I need one of those! I need one of those!" And then the business just kind of spun up from that. So I would say if you're doing woodworking, like Steve said, it does give you the opportunity to, instead of just giving somebody a shelf or giving them a coaster or, a little, counter saver or stove cover or whatever, you can actually go a little bit further and make it custom. And customized typically means you get paid a little better.
So you can take, now this isn't finished by any means, but just a simple little box, and then add in on the top, you can add the engraving, just to add that extra flair to this.
Wow,
Obviously this would look better.
You did that engraving quick. Oh, okay,
Yeah,
you got two of them.
I just realized I had that sitting over here. Perfect prop for this. But yeah, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about, is just being able to add that extra little bit to it to really make it special. So
Yeah. Well, this is like, and I haven't actually done anything with this one, but this is another one of my little picture frames, my little rustic picture frames that I made. And this is out of just some old. I mean, you can tell it's got the bug marks and everything.
mm-hmm.
This is some weathered poplar wood that I got, and just made a little, just a little easy picture frame. And you can engrave these. You can engrave the glass, and people will actually pay pretty good money for those. So that's actually the picture frames and stuff like that. It's kind of what got me into the lasers in the beginning. And
Yeah,
I haven't made a picture frame in a while now.
and I would actually argue this is one of the better case scenarios in that you're using the laser as a tool to kind of enhance what you're already doing. I see a lot of people that they're like, "Hey, I got this laser. Now, how do I make it into a business?" And they don't really have a plan. They're just kind of chasing what the crowd's doing. But if you can take the tool to make what you're already doing and make it just that much more unique or to fill the niche, then I think that's an excellent way to go about it.
Yeah.
From when you're looking at it from business. I mean, if this is your hobby, knock yourself out, have fun, do whatever you want to do. But I always caution people that they kind of see it as like a way to spin up a business, but don't have any idea what they would do. So all they can do is copy what others are doing.
Yeah. And that's what me and my wife actually had that conversation. My wife's in business management. That's what she's done her entire career is manage businesses, small and larger businesses. And a lot of people, I get a lot of those comments about, hey, I want to start a laser engraving business. What machine do I need to get? And the first thing I want to tell people is if you're wanting to start a laser engraving business, the first thing you need to do is learn about laser engraving. And if you do that, then you should know, have a good idea which machine to get. Because a lot of people, I think they think that you can just grab the thing, bring it home, set it up, and boom, you have a business. But there's a lot more to it than just, you know,
Well, yeah,
operating the machine.
it's learn about laser engraving, but also, you know, you got to be able to have the knowledge to be able to modify or create your own files. If you're reliant on constantly buying files from someone else or finding them free ones, it's going to limit you. I'm not saying you can't be successful with that, but it's going to limit you when you can
Oh
really
yeah.
start to make your own items and make your own designs and even just be able to kind of take an existing idea and then put your spin on it. That's where things are going to really make it that much easier for you.
Okay. This guy's and no offense, but I'm having a hard time. I have so many people message me about different machines. Do you recall which one this is? You said
um
it's losing connection.
if it's been this weekend, I've been so much in the shop and out and about that I haven't necessarily gotten to all my messages, so I apologize if I haven't yet.
Oh,
um but it's D1 Pro losing connection, uninstalled and reinstalled both XCS and LightBurn several times. It's still acting up. Probably need a little more information. Is it not connecting at all, or is it starting and then just dropping off? That could kind of point to a couple different things, I guess. What is your thoughts on it?
well, first thing, especially with X Tool, because I've been having a lot of people message me lately, and we found that the problem was that their firmware wasn't up to date. And if you're running the modern version of Lightburn, but you're running 3 versions back of the firmware on the X tool, that could be causing a problem. Because the today's version of Lightburn is set up to operate with the latest firmware on the X tool. So you may want to, and if you're running an old version, if you haven't updated Lightburn in 3 years, and you're running the same XCS, then maybe you're okay. But I would definitely check firmware and see if that fixes it. I've had so far this week, I've had 3 different people with the S1 that were having problems, and I checked with them and I'm like, hey, have you updated the firmware? And they're like, I'll get back with you. And then to come to find out that was the problem was they were trying to run Lightburn with the out of date firmware and it wouldn't work.
Hmm.
So that would be my first thing is check your firmware.
Yeah, so
Make sure.
I guess could check that. They said that it starts and then drops off. So I don't know if that changes the equation for you or not. Um, on my D1 Pro that I've been running Lightburn with, I'm still on just version 14 or 1.4.0. I haven't updated my Lightburn yet, so I don't know if the latest version will break that, and I haven't started up XCS about a month now with that one either to see if that's going to push out a firmware update on the D1 Pro. But
Yeah.
The other thing is, double check always go back. Sometimes Windows updates and such will change the power settings. Double check that hasn't fallen back off to going into like a sleep mode on your USB ports. That's one common issue with it. And if you're plugging and unplugging the cables over time, those cables can get bad and start running into some issues. So
One other thing that I haven't mentioned in a while that did come up, I did find this actually with one of my machines. If you're running, especially if you're running a laptop or something that doesn't have a really massive power supply and you've got too many things running on USB power, you may want to look at getting a powered USB hub,
mm-hmm.
because what that does, instead of putting all that power consumption on your computer, now the USB hub itself is actually sending power out to those devices, because it could be that you're getting a little bit of low voltage between all the devices trying to communicate with the machine at the same time. I had the issue over here at my test station, and I put in a powered USB 3 hub, and I haven't had any problems out of it since. So that I don't know that that's your problem, but if you've got more than, I'd say if you've got a hub or two hooked to that computer, I would definitely look at getting something to help provide a little bit of power, because most of your standard hubs are just going to split that current. They're not going to add to it. And so you could be getting a little bit of a bad connection that way.
So here's a look. They mentioned both XCS and LightBurn are up to date with the latest firmware and have changed cords. Even tried another laptop. It's still not working. I think it's something happening to my laser head. Xtool called me and sent a troubleshooting file.
Oh,
Yeah.
If it's doing it with a different computer, now that's a whole other thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's unfortunately sometimes it gets to this point where it is machine failure of sorts, and that's we can sometimes help isolate it to what the issue might be, but then it's really going to be up to support at that point to figure out later.
I think it's safe to say if you've got two different computers and you're having the same problem, with the problem is following the machine and not the computer, it's probably something with the machine, or it could be the cable. But if you've tried different cables,
cords, yep.
Yeah, you may have had one of those that's just messing up on you. I have done inhaled a cat hair or something. Killing me.
Larry's asking about the computer found the laser on COM port 7. How do I get it to COM port 4 as in the directions? Don't worry about what the directions say. You want to make sure that the software is looking for the COM port that the computer has it assigned to. It will assign those as you plug and unplug USB devices, or back when they were serial devices and other things. It just kind of first come, first serve generally with Windows now. So it will actually bounce around. So if you plug in a laser and then you plug in another communication device like a printer, and then you swap the two and plug them in different order next time, they may switch which port they're on. So the important thing is to make sure that the software is looking for the COM port that the operating system has assigned it.
Yeah. The COM port, like I said, that's just basically the number it gets when it comes through the door. That isn't going to matter how your machine works or whether or not it works. Now, I will say I run Windows 10 on my machine, Windows 10 Pro, and I've got a whole bunch of USB devices. And my two main lasers, pretty much, my COM ports don't change often. Major updates, a lot of times, will cause them to shift around, but pretty much mine stay the same. I've got little pieces of tape with the numbers written on it stuck to each of my enclosures, just in case I forget or somebody comes over to use my machine. They'll know which one to use. But yeah, don't worry about the COM port, like you said. That's trivial.
So Doug's mentioned he's got his rotary problem partially worked out, still working on it. I quickly scanned through the group earlier today, and was this the one with the Sculpt Fun trying to hook to the
Probably
the R1? Yeah,
I think that was Doug. Yeah.
So yeah, I haven't had a chance to kind of catch up on that. I if you do really get stuck on it, I should hopefully be able to replicate what you're trying to do, because I do have my S30, and I believe I still have. I'll have to check if I have the actual roller rotary, but it shouldn't be any different than their chuck rotary. as far as getting the two to talk to each other. So let me know. I'll follow up in the group and see. Maybe this week, if you're still getting stuck with it, I'll try to get mine hooked up and walk through it.
Hang on, let me see here. Let me look at something right quick. I've had one other machine. I don't remember which one it was. Yeah, I do. It was Comgrow, wasn't it? Yeah, the Comgrow Z1. I don't know if you ever had one of those or had the rotary with it, but you actually had to load a different machine profile when you used the rotary and when you didn't, because the steps and all that had to be changed, because you're actually unplugging the stepper and plugging it into the rotary instead of plugging it into the board. It doesn't have an extra plug to assign settings to. So, and some of the other machines, I think Ashmer P1 may have been another one that you had to actually have a profile for rotary and not rotary. And I think that's what he's going to end up having to do with the Sculpt Fund, because it doesn't have a designated port for the, secondary Y-axis.
Well, most of those you're just unplugging the Y-axis stepper. I understand the Comgrow Z1 had two, and so that one needed to be tweaked. So it wasn't trying to send and receive signals on the both. But we'll see. I'm trying to think back if I had hooked up a rotary to any of my Sculpt Funds, and I'm not sure that I actually have. But like I say, if you really get stuck, I'll try to get it. Try to work through it on my gear here and be able to respond to you there.
Yeah, I've got I don't know if I've still got the R1, but I've got my Chucks, and I've got a Sculpt Fund, but I've never used Chuck with it.
So Bill Hunter's looking to use the spray marking on some Henry Golden Boy brass receivers. I have not had luck with brass outside of the fiber. So I don't know that you're going to have any luck with that, depending on what laser you have. So,
and I don't know what kind. If you did get it to stay on there, I don't know what kind of how long you could expect it to stay without wearing off. That would be my concern. I hate messing with stuff that's unknown like that.
Here you go. You got your S1. You got some creative space.
Yeah, I got to get caught up. That's my problem right now. Is I got so much going on. I got one of the videos done today. I've got two more I've got to do. Well, three more I've got to do, and I'm gonna try to get back to the S1. I did get my riser kit put on there, and that thing. If you're gonna get an S1, go ahead and get the riser, because it definitely makes a big difference. I can now take some of my 2-inch thick mahogany over here and engrave it without having to redo the whole machine. Whereas before, I was limited to like 3/4 with the honeycomb in and 1.5 inches total with it out. So I've got probably, I don't know, a good 6 inches of clearance in there now. So that is a good investment if you're going to get the S1 and you're going to do big, larger stuff. So
Chris is mentioning that he's noticed a huge number of increased problems with disconnections and may be a problem with Windows Update and firmware combination, and that's one reason I recommend after you do Microsoft used to do monthly updates, Patch Tuesday. Now it depends. They push critical ones out more timely and then kind of have a roll up for all the other gotchas once a month. So if you've noticed one of those have come through recently and you're starting to have some problems, I definitely go back and double check some of the core settings. Sometimes they push out some power saving features or some new drivers that tweak settings that you thought were changed, and it's worth taking another look. So
yeah, some of those major updates will jack up your power saving settings. There's you a good one. Other than don't do it.
Yeah. So if, I guess, depending on the school, if you're talking like K-12 public schools, chances are their logos aren't necessarily trademarked. If you're talking a college, then they may or may not be.
If it's an SEC school, I can promise you they are.
Yeah, yeah. If they're Big Ten, SEC, or any of those, they most likely trademark their stuff. And then you'd probably want to reach out to some of them. Actually, have more reasonable maker licenses as compared to your big corporations like Disney and such. They may have something that allows you to do a certain level of them. If you can't find that information on their website, maybe reach out to their marketing group. They may or may not, they may just tell you no. But yeah, if it's K-12, I chances are it's not trademarked. That's an expensive thing to do, and most public schools, trust me, do not have the money to worry about that. So yeah, I would, if you're giving it to them and as a demo, they're probably not going to go after you. They might just ask you to please don't do this anymore. Versus if they catch you selling it at a market or online, then they might get lawyers involved.
Yeah, Klein says that every college logo is trademarked if they're a member of the NCAA. So I don't know. He would probably know that.
I wouldn't doubt it at that level, but not like the community college I work at, we're not a member of that. And I know we have branding guidelines, but I highly doubt it's trademarked because the same style logo has been used in other places as well.
I know our local high school here, they actually did get theirs trademarked because I've run into helping some folks with some stuff, and they have to have the little sign, basically a piece of paper from the school saying that they're using it for the school or whatever.
Sure.
So, but now most of the other schools, like you said, they're not. Good question for you, Grandpa's got right there. Does it matter USB 2 or 3? And I have not run into one that requires USB 3 yet. Have you?
No. I've had some that are more native USB-C, which is nice if you've got newer gear. But it for the most part, most of these lasers, they're gonna be downward compatible with whichever ports you're running them on. Um, because neither of them are pushing communication rates that are
Yeah.
gonna bother. So, I unless the manufacturer specifically calls it out, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, the only benefit that I have with USB 3 is no matter what it is that I plug up in the USB ports over here on my bench, it's going to work. Whether it's a camera, because a lot of the cameras that like Steve and I use will not work on USB 2 because the transfer rate is not fast enough for that camera. So if I'm going to use the Elgato camera over here, I've got to have USB 3. If I'm going to use my Logitech camera, I've got to have USB 3. So, but with the lasers, 3D printers, and stuff like that, typically that data stream is not going to be enough to. It's not going to require USB 3, but it will work over USB 3 because anything USB 2 will work on 3. It's just some things that require 3 will not work on 2. So you should have to worry about that.
So Jack's asking about good types of woods that have clean surfaces that do not detract with the grain for etching pictures and 3D illusion type things. Yeah, so some consistent ones. I mean, I guess that kind of depends because some of them that have very clear grain, they don't necessarily have the contrast you might be looking for. So like birch, sometimes you can get a fairly clear one, but they still have some grain in them, but you don't get quite the burn that you will on, say, cherry. So one fairly consistent one I would say is basswood if you're just going for pictures. It's usually pretty white, and you can get a decent engraving. It's probably not going to be as dark as some. You looked like you were trying to find something.
Yes, I was looking for a piece of magnolia, and I got a piece of poplar. Which, with all woods too, you can have one piece of wood, and you'll have 4 foot of really grainy wood, and you'll have that really. It's going to depend on the type of wood, and grain changes. Also, the way that the wood is cut, whether it's quarter sawn or whether it's just flat cut wood or whatever. You'll have different characteristics in the grain. But I've got some right here somewhere. I was going to try to find. Uh, but poplar would probably be one of the more, as far as if you wanted a hardwood, poplar would probably be one of the better ones. See if I got some around here. I got some oak, I know.
Yeah, but even that's going to depend because like you say, poplar can be anything from white to purple and green.
Yeah,
So,
and you could have these wide bands
yeah,
of like that.
yeah.
Uh, and then even with oak, I mean, you can see the grain in oak as well. So I mean,
But
really, you're gonna have to stick with like a MDF or tile or some type of non-wooden surface to
well,
get
and
no grain.
some of it is, if you can get a decent sheet of the material, you'll have sections of it, like you say, where they're fairly clear, and other sections where they've got some of that grain. And so if you can be somewhat selective with it and say, okay, the more grainy stuff I'm going to save for my fixtures and my parts, and then I'll pull out the nicer sheets for the engravings and such. So, that material that I did from Home Depot with those project packs, some of them were that way. And that's the birch flavor. They actually make those in a few different types of veneer wood for that. But some of them were very clear, and then some others had some grain running through them. So, but that one had more of that MDF core. So when you did engrave it, it you know really popped darker when you got deep enough.
Yeah.
What'd you
All
find?
right. MDF. That's just straight up MDF. All right. I got some white oak off of my mill. It does have grain, and the grain did bleed through to the image. And poplar off of my sawmill. This is actually a piece of live edge poplar. It's still got the bark and everything on it. But this is the same image, three different woods. That's poplar compared to oak, and of course the ever so popular MDF. So, just to give you an idea, MDF is probably the if you don't want any grain. Me personally, I think the grain adds a little character to the image. Just like with this guy, I mean, it's got a little bit of grain showing like right in here, but for the most part, if you position the grain like you said, this wasn't. I didn't pick this piece of wood. This just happened to be a piece that was laid in the shop when I was testing this stuff. So this one, had I been paying attention, I could have run the grain a different direction, and it wouldn't have been as noticeable. But this was, like I said, this was some stuff off of my sawmill. You can see all the bug holes in it and stuff like that. This is a rescued piece of wood that I milled up. But just to give you an idea, me personally, I think that adds a little flavor to the image.
Yeah, it's definitely a personal preference kind of thing. Even person to person, customer to customer. That one may love it and one may want anything but it. So
Now, cedar does a good job if you can find some that it doesn't have heavy grain. Cedar
yep.
doesn't show its grain as easy. Da, 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 da. What else we got going on here? I'm perusing the comments.
Super Duty Jeff's asking how dependent is the S1 on XCS?
Mm, well, you lose the triangulation, the little 2 point thing, if you don't use XCS. They did fix the autofocus thing with the last firmware update, so you can use the autofocus in LightBurn. So that's really the big hang up is the contoured engraving. You can't do it in LightBurn. So I would say as long as you're not doing contoured engraving and you're not hung up about the 2 point aiming, LightBurn pretty much does everything else. They had a little bit of hitch with the Air Assist. I emailed X Tool to let them know that with LightBurn at that time, if you turned any layer, turned Air Assist on, it ran it for the whole job. And they said they were going to get the engineers to look into that and adjust it. So I haven't updated and checked since I spoke with them about that to see if they fixed it yet. But they did tell me that they were going to look into it, and they were thankful that I brought it to their attention. So Hopefully that will be resolved. But so far, that's the only two things that I see that you're going to lose if you don't run XCS. But XCS has actually came a long way from when it
Mhm.
first came out. I mean, it's a lot better program today than it was when I got my D1 20 watt.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that in people they're happy using it, and they don't feel the need to jump to Lightburn, and I can see that. I have jumped back to use it like with the F1, and doing a little testy with the D1. That it's far more featured now, and they do continue to work on it, which is great. It's just, but for us, old habits die hard. We've got Lightburn ingrained in us, and we can use that with all the other lasers. So, uh, you know, it. It makes it hard to jump back and forth between the two when you're jumping in and out of the X tool kind of ecosystem.
Yep. See, Richard's asking how to export an XCS file to Lightburn, and that would probably be best just to export it. I don't remember what all file types they have up to export. Let me look and see.
Well, if they've got, do they have SVG as an
I
export
think
option?
I think XCS does. I'm loading it up now to see for sure
Okay. Yeah,
before I make a liar out of myself.
I actually don't have that on this computer. I should add it. Um, that
So
would probably be the best
yeah,
option.
yes, export as SVG is an option in XCS. So that would be my go-to with anything you're wanting to take from XCS back into Lightburn. I don't see it. You've got save as, but the only options is XCS project. So looks like SVG is going to be your only option coming out of XCS going back into Lightburn. Yeah. So if you want me to show that to you, we'll go. I'll go over to my screen. But when you go into the X Tools Creative Space and you click the little folder button right here, that's your option right there. You've got export as SVG, and then you can export it as one of those. Uh, Pretty much, that's all you're going to have. You got save and save as only has the one option. So that's going to be the button that you're going to want to use. Is going to be right here, export as SVG. So there you go. I saw somebody asking earlier, and we were talking about something else, and I didn't get to answer it. But somebody was asking me when I'm running multiple lasers on my computer, do I have to have separate Lightburn? And no, you do not. When you go into Lightburn, all you basically do is you open up another instance of it. And I've ran up to 4 machines simultaneously with my computer, with my one installment of Lightburn. So no, as long as you have a license to use it on that computer, you can run. I know 4. I think that's about the most I've ran at one time was 4. But I know you can run 4 machines at one time, assuming your computer has the processing ability to do so.
I mean, once they're running the jobs, that's not really doing too much. It's more of the the drawing and the doing the
Yeah.
manipulating is where it might bog down a little bit. But Lightburn's a pretty efficient application. But when you start adding in, maybe an instance of Illustrator, GIMP, or some of those others, that could start adding up on it. Or if you're one of those crazy people that have like 50 Chrome tabs open at once, that'll eat up a lot of
Guilty.
resources. Oh, I
Yeah.
think we all are. I
Guilty.
think we all are.
Hey, I'll be listening to my music. I'll have YouTube playing. I'll have Steve playing on that TV over there. I'll have music playing in the background and like Lightburn running. I'll have VCarve running on this machine over here. It gets ridiculous. There's your question too about slate. I don't know if you've ever done any outdoor slate. I haven't really put any outdoors, so I can't really speak to that.
Uh, I think at that point, if you um, do the polyurethane beforehand, it should make the engraving pop quite a bit, and then you can add a light coating on top of it that would help preserve it. But weather is going to get to it eventually. The polyurethane will kind of yellow in the sun, and it'll eventually flake off. So
Okay, actually caught up on the questions. Woohoo!
Yeah, we may have missed some, and if we have missed yours, go ahead and drop it back in. We'll try to catch it. Philip, as far as mirrors and focal lens not being clean to replace, if you want to go with a really good quality, there's a company called American Photonics, and they have mirrors, they have lenses, they even have a reverse alignment tool. So it's a red dot laser that you put in your focal tube, and then it kind of basically shoots backwards through your lasers to help you align it rather than having to use the pulse. And so that is also another good tool. So that's a place to look. Otherwise, you can measure them. You need your diameter of your mirrors and your diameter of your lenses. You can find a lot on Amazon. It may be hit or miss as to the quality. So I'll drop this. Looks like you're over on my channel, so I'll drop this link over there, and I'll actually just drop it in both channels just so make sure people can get on there. And I've ordered mirrors from them. I've ordered lenses and other things, and it's they've always worked out really well. They're a good company. They're based out of Florida. Most of their stuff is made in the U.S. So it's a good company to work with. But like I say, you can also find a lot of stuff on Amazon as well.
Yep. By the way, Steve, what you doing with a hoodie on?
What? I mean, it was warm today. By that, I mean it got up into around 60. But winter has. I mean, it snowed last weekend.
It was like 80 today.
Yeah, well, everybody talking about the El Nino whatever weather patterns. They're talking that you are going to be getting more average snow, and we are going to getting less average snow.
Hey, man, if we could get some snow, that would be great. Because, everything shuts down around here when it snows. Nobody has any bread or milk, and everything shuts down. Like, you don't go to school, you don't go to work. I mean, police response is like to a minimum. It just shuts everything down. A half inch of snow and we're done.
What are you going to do with those perishables in a snowstorm?
Perishables.
People buy bread and milk, and they're getting like all these perishable things. The snow's going to come. Yeah, your power's going to go out. Now you've got all this milk that's going to spoil.
I don't know what they do it for. It doesn't bother me. I don't go get the milk.
See up here, it's winter. The power goes out. You don't worry about the fridge. You just stick things out the back porch.
And see, we can't do that though. It don't get that cold enough to.
Up here when they talk about winter storm warning, they're like, oh, I better go hit the liquor store before it's all.
What? They want to know why you're on the bottom. Oh Lord, don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah, who's telling me to hush? Jack, what am I gonna hush about? You afraid we're gonna get some snow? Or are you afraid? Wait a minute, where is Jack? Jack's
now I
forgot where Jack's at.
No, it was actually a pretty nice weekend here today. Well, it was windy today. Yesterday I really should have gotten out to my flying field to do some things and button things up, but I was too busy with. Well, I sent you the picture of the beef roast that I was pulling off the smoker. So
yeah. Jack said he works for Pike Electric, and when it snows, they get busy, and they do around here. And part of the problem around here is it never snows, and so all these limbs that are over the top of the power lines that have been there for all these years, when they get a little bit of weight from ice and snow on them, they break and they take the power lines down. And like literally, you can drive down the street, and like every other power pole, the lines will be on the ground. So that's the problem here is we don't get it often enough for the trees and the infrastructure to be prepared for it. And nobody has sanding trucks. Nobody has snow plows. So if we get more than a half inch of snow, it is just devastating around here. But yeah, that's what we were discussing. Our ray of sun. That's it. Yeah, it's always the bread, egg, and milk around here, and I don't know why that is. If you maybe people just like drinking milk while the power's out.
I don't drink milk normally.
I don't usually, but since I've been out of work for so long, I've started eating cereal in the mornings.
Mm.
Yeah. Don, I can't say. I don't know if the S9 is anything like the S30. All I can tell you is I made it for the S30 Ultra, and I think I did make one for the S30 Standard, but that was with help from somebody that had one. Yeah, see, Victor, we don't have snow machines here. I do have a 50 horsepower four-wheel drive Kubota tractor, and I also have a four-wheel drive F-150. So I could probably get to places, especially with the tractor. Dust ignition. The heck is dust ignition? I got like dust blowing up over there, Chris. Chris said he had the problem with dust ignition. I don't know. That just sounds scary. Like a flame coming across the horizon, or what?
Well, in dust collection setups, there is that whole idea that you can build up static, especially in PVC type conduit, or not conduit, but piping, and that it could actually flash off the kind of the air particulate dust.
Yeah, kind of like the what is it? The flour mill that exploded up north.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that is a really good if you're making explosives. Sawdust, flour, stuff like that is a really good additive to add in the mix. Or so I've heard. Let's see here.
All right, it has broken for me to click on chats, so it's all on you.
Oh, see, make fun of me. That happens to me all the time. If you try to reply, it'll jam it up. Mark says Dallas is the same way. They had sand in trucks, but that was it. Yeah, Dallas. Last time I was in Dallas, I think there was like 6 foot of water under all the No, that wasn't Dallas. That was Houston. There was like 6 foot of water in the overpasses. Went down there for that last big hurricane they had. Pole top fires. I bet that's fun. Got kangaroos running around setting trees on fire and poles on fire. Cool. All right, so we have been at it for 47 minutes, guys, and this is where we tell you if you're not a member of our Laser Engraver community page, then maybe you want to consider it. It's just a cool place for everybody to hang out, show off their things that they've made or whatnot, and we do our best. I had to get rid of a couple today. We do our best to keep rid of the bots and the people trying to sell you stuff, but it's just a great place to come hang out, show off some of your work, get advice from fellow laser enthusiasts like Steve and myself, and just see some cool pictures. I had spaghetti for supper. It was really good, but I ate way too much. Now I got heartburn.
Yeah, when I went to add that link, it wanted me to log in, and then it broke everything for me. So,
Is it fixed yet?
I mean, maybe if I hop out and come back, it would be. But
yeah. Oh yeah. And Jack pointed out too. We have finally got 1,000 people in the group. It's been a while. What's it been? Close to a year now, hasn't it?
Not quite, but getting there.
And we've got it up to 1,000 people. So it's like I said, we try to keep it clean. We try to keep all of the salesy stuff out of there. I think I've got 2 that are sitting on 3 strikes apiece. Their next strike, they're banned. but it's a neat little organization we got going there.
I can't put my sales link in there.
Well, I mean, hey, what is it we say? Give more than you receive.
Yeah. No,
if you're always answering questions and helping people, feel free if you have something that you can offer them
so
to to give it.
I know a few people have been jumping on the extended laser bandwagon, and people are always asking, what's the honeycomb panel that I can get to match with this? And so I did get an opportunity to check a new one out, and it's by a random company called GeekBee, and it's 19 and a half by about 37 and a half. So it fits most of the extended lasers pretty well. I tested it out with the Atom Stack A30. Its normal list price is $127, but they have a $30 coupon right now. So you can get that one for just under $100 on Amazon right now if you're interested. So I always like to try to pass along deals that I think are actually good and things I've actually tried out. So, wanting to share that with people that might be able to take advantage of that and save some money on that. So,
Yeah, I think one of client's family members took advantage of the P20 sale they had going on the other day.
nice.
So some of those sales that they got going right now are pretty doggone good.
Well, yeah, now's the time of year where you kind of, if you're not pushing for it, you kind of want to hold off on buying it and just see if there's a good deal, because I'm sure everybody's inbox is flooded with pre or Black Friday sales already going on and such. So
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, as soon as I get the video done, I've got another one right there. That's going to be a pretty cool little machine for people that maybe you want a second machine but don't want to drop a whole lot of money. That little guy's turned out to be a pretty good machine. Atom Stack's come out with a new, more compact but very rigid little machine. And I like my Eighsters and I like my Atom Stacks. So far it has not disappointed. And you have the same machine that you'll be testing as well, so we'll be able to kind of compare notes on that.
yeah, it's sadly still in the box. It showed up, I think, yesterday or so. I don't know. But yeah, I'm excited to get that one tested out. Today I was trying to polish up a few things. I was working on editing the Cheedy X Plus 3 3D printer video. Finally got some ABS run through that one as well, so I was able to kind of test the initial 3 filaments on that one. And really fun printer, really nice and fast. It's got the nice enclosed feature to it, so it actually will heat up the chamber up to like 65 degrees Celsius to help with some of the filaments and such. And so I've had some fun testing that one, and it's been a lot easier than dialing in some of these older Crealities that I've enjoyed, but always kind of anytime it would mess up, I'd start the whole half hour to an hour of tuning and tweaking on it, and I haven't had that on this one yet. So that'll be hitting out this week pretty soon. And then I've got I've got the Atom Stack what is it, the L24 or A24, that one to work with and such.
A24.
But
yeah, that's the A24. Is yours the same color? Has it got like the red, almost pink color? Or have you
no, I think mine's midnight blue, and no, I have. It's still in the box. So
You're terrible. Let's see here. What is it, Steve? Can you link the machine that Dave linked? What machine is he talking about?
What did you link?
I didn't link a machine, did I? I didn't know I did. You linked some stuff, the Amazon stuff.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Brian. I'm not sure what I usually try to copy them over when I catch them, but I may have missed what you did if you threw out a link there.
Did I don't know that I did. I did the laser engraving community link.
Sure.
I did that one.
Well, that I just put in my description so people can click on it if they want. But if you're wondering about the Atom Stack laser, I can probably find one of those for my channel real quick.
No, Brian. I said I've got one. It's actually sitting right there. Maybe that's what you heard. But that's it right there. But I haven't got through with it. I did finish up the Elagoo today, so I'm polishing up on the last little bits of that thing. Yeah, I didn't put a link out, Brian. It's the machine's right there. I can get you a link for it, but it's only available Currently, it's only available directly from Atom Stack. It hasn't made it to Amazon or anybody
Well,
yet.
and is it atomstack.com or atomstack.net? Because who knows what's going
Yeah,
on there.
yeah. Klein found out that one the hard way. It's on .com, by the way.
All right.
But yeah, but it's a decent little machine so far from what I've seen. But this is actually the machine that me and Steve both have one right now. And
There, I finally
yeah,
found it.
yeah, Jack. It's basically put together. I like to call it a unibody because there is no right side, left side. It's one big square stamped out of a piece of metal with all the electronics built into it. You have to literally put the module on there, a couple of hoses and a cable, and you're ready to go. So, and it is very hot for a 20 something watt. I got some really good drop tests out of it. So,
Okay, I almost feel like I need to
oh,
refresh the
thank you,
page
sir.
because
Hey, hit the button, see what happens. If it kicks you out, I'll wait on you. We're not going anywhere. But I also have Elagoose sent us out, and I think Steve's got the same one as well. Their new Phecda, Phecda, whatever it's called. It's a budget machine as well, but it's a little larger, but it's a 20 watt and has some other things that they've done to it. But I'm gonna like it more than I do the Atom Stack. They're gonna have to work pretty hard to win me over from Atom Stack. All right, let's come on back in here, Steve. Did you get your comments fixed? Well, I think we both hit the button. They don't like you being on top. They don't like you being on top or on bottom. They gotta put you up top. But yeah, Jim, I thought that was a pretty good price, and it's a pretty powerful little machine. John, blue tumblers
yay, it
are
works.
kind of like white. Does it? Blue tumblers are kind of like white tumblers. Because they're blue, they reflect blue light, and you're shooting blue light at them. So you're going to have to slow way down from what you do, say, if you're doing a black or red or something that does not reflect blue light. White and blue are the two toughest colors to do. With my 10 watt machine that I used to run, I haven't done many white tumblers with the 20s and 30s, but with a 10 watt machine, I would slow down from 80 millimeters a second at black to 50 millimeters a second for white and blue. And then reds, all the other colors basically would be anywhere from 70 to 80 millimeters a second. So you're going to have to slow down or either turn the heat up with blue and white. So 3,000 millimeters. That's what's how much is 3,000 millimeters? Gosh. Get my calculator, make sure I get this right.
That might be a little
50,
slow.
yeah, 50. Yeah, 50 with a 20 watt, you are actually probably going to turn the stainless steel gray and actually mark the stainless underneath it. Unless it's a Yeti. Now, Yetis, you have to gnaw on those things. They're tough. Yeti, DeWalt, and there's a few other tumblers that are really, really tough to get the coating off of. The cheaper tumblers work a lot better than the Yetis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have done some Stanley tumblers, yes, from Walmart. I guess they're legit Stanleys, the ones with the handles, because people around here like to drink beverages out of the Stanleys with the handles. I've done a couple of those.
No,
What do they call those things? Growlers.
sure, depends on. Now, do some of those Stanleys have a removable handle or something like that? Yeah,
Yes, some of them, and some of them aren't removable,
yeah.
so you have to do them with a chuck.
So I know some people were looking for those and liking them because you could use them on a standard roller rotary.
Yeah. Well, the ones that I did were like huge Stanley cups, and the guy said he was using them as a growler for beer. And so I did his design that he wanted on them, but they actually had a built-on handle.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
whew.
Oddly enough, speaking of blue tumblers, these are some that I did for my staff for Christmas presents a few years ago. And of course, our school colors happen to be navy blue. Um, so it was a good opportunity to use the CO2.
Yeah. Let's see. Beaver's asking, and I'm not sure I'm understanding the question. Is there an option in Lightburn to show the position of the laser head on the grid using absolute coordinates?
Uh, does it?
The green dot doesn't move
No, but there's the red dot that does.
in
I
Lightburn.
thought so.
Well, let's check it out and see what happens. Let's see. I've got the old A24 over here, and navigating to the center of the workspace.
Ah, sorry, didn't mean to do that.
Yeah, nothing's moving.
That's moving.
I didn't think it did. The green dot only changes when you change your origin. If you do it from current position, the green dot will move based on which origin you're using or position you're using. But yeah, no. Now in XCS, I do know that they have the red cursor that moves. That may be what you're thinking about. In XCS, it has a little crosshair that moves with the S1. But yeah, no, I didn't think there was. I didn't recall anything moving in Lightburn. Like where it shows the command. What was that noise? Cats over there playing in the cat door. But no, I don't think that is.
I think you. I don't know. I have to look into that. I thought maybe there was something that you could turn on for that, but
I I haven't seen it. I'll put it that way.
okay.
If there is, let me know
Yeah.
because I want to know about it too. I haven't found it. Uh, da, 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 da. Let's see. Somebody's asking question. AGTs want to know if you've used any of the Ozark Trail from Walmart.
Uh no. I yeah. Our so when you talk about the people of Walmart, our local Walmart is the epitome of that. So I honestly try to avoid going to Walmart unless I'm on the road. And then I have no problems going to Walmart. I just do not like our local Walmart here. As a matter of fact, a few years ago, we were on the national news because someone literally drove their car all the way into Walmart and halfway through it. So yeah, why are you doing this weird view again?
Because you had me on single screen, and I still can't figure out which
Just
button.
click the single one on the. Um, so no, I haven't tried the trail. What was it? I know the ones
Ozark
Ozark
Trail.
Trail ones. Um,
I've done a
honestly,
I've done a boatload of those things.
most ones I end up getting them online from places in bulk. The other place I've occasionally got them if you want the just the plain stainless steel ones. Every so often, and maybe they haven't recently, but there was at one point when Harbor Freight had the stainless steel tumblers for like $5 a piece or less, and I was able to go and buy up a bunch of them. I think I still have probably a dozen that I haven't used, but
Yeah, that's the Ozark Trail,
there you go.
and it's blue.
It's light blue. It's baby blue. It's robin's
Yeah,
egg blue.
yeah, yeah. This was a oops that turned into a test cup, and so yeah, and you can see I did a pretty good bit of engraving with it. We create on it. Did a little imaging there with a deer. But yeah, with blue, you do have to slow down. But the Ozark trails actually burn really well. The one thing that I will caution you is make sure that what I do is I take a piece of tape and put on the bottom that shows me exactly where their logo is located,
Mhm.
so that when I'm setting it up, I can actually put that underneath it, and so that I know I'm opposite of this logo here, because what you don't want to happen is have your logo like right beside theirs. So I use a piece of tape with a little line indicating where their logo is, so that when I set it up opposite side of where I'm going to be working. So just a little tip there.
Sorry, Verl is asking about 3D printers and is resin a good way to go? Kind of depending on what you're wanting to do. If you're wanting to get into more fine detail miniatures, and then it is. So this is a resin based, bust that you get a lot of detail. You don't get a lot of the layer lines that you do with a regular FDM style printer, but they are a little, they tend to be a little bit slower. Their build volume is to get a larger build volume, it's a lot more expensive. And then there's a whole process with it that you kind of have to take them out. You need to clean it. Then you need to actually cure it generally. So like UV light, sunlight will do it, but you often need to have a cleaning tank and then put it into like a little UV oven to really cure the resin. So it adds a little bit of complexity for it. But if you're wanting to do small detailed items, yes, they are a good way to go. But a good filament FDM type printer, I think, is going to be a little bit easier to start out with.
Yeah.
There's another one. Robert asking about, for a diode laser, clear acrylic or glass, do you coat / paint the inside or outside? Is one way better, or is it just what side gets the effect? Very much so. It's whatever surface you put the material on, that's what it's going to interact with, and then that's going to frost that surface. So you may be going for the look of you want the etching, but you might want it on the backside. So that's where, like if you're doing doing like those LED lit acrylic signs, it's actually nice to maybe put the engraving on the backside of the acrylic rather than on the front, and so then it's a little bit easier to clean. And sometimes when you're doing glass, again, if it's like a picture frame, that's going to make it easier to not, when you're etching it, it's, small micro abrasions in that frosting, and having that on the inside of the object might be better. Some people actually go for that effect. It's called, what is it, like nucleation, where they do it on the inside of like beer glasses, and then that'll cause the carbonation to have interact with that frosting, and then it makes the beer look interesting, I guess, with all the bubbles and such. So yeah, there are reasons you might want to do it on one side or the other, but it is going to be dictated by which side you put that binder on. So
Yeah. John, while you're at it, I hope you haven't locked your settings down, but also I will tell you, with tumblers, especially Yetis and some of the tougher ones, bumping your LPI up will help kind of dig through that coating and eliminate any lines or anything that may be left showing. I try to run around 200 LPI on tumblers just to give me that nice crisp corners. And if it's a really intricate design, sometimes I'll even go a little higher than that. But LPI will also help make sure you get them good and clean, and you don't have those visible lines in your engrave. And Brian, I'm assuming they're going to make a camera for the A24. I did notice that they have a pattern of 4 screw holes dead center the back of the machine. So I'm assuming that that's going to be either for a camera, or they've also mentioned having an enclosure for this thing. And I've noticed that there are tapped holes strategically placed around the machine. So I'm not sure that it's not going to have some type of enclosure that literally sits on it and screws down to it. So I'm kind of curious. I know Steve said they said the enclosure wouldn't be ready until like November. But I do know that they do have plans for a enclosure specifically for this machine, which stands to reason that they're probably going to have the camera as well. Like I said, there is a 4 pattern of screws right in the center in the back, and it does not fit the other Atom Stack camera that I have. So I'm assuming they're going to come out with one for it.
that being said, you should be able to mount it with the clamp and adjust it. That camera, the original Atom Stack, is very flexible. But yeah, I would love to see their enclosure for it be ready to go for a camera. you know, because everybody that's the question. You know, people get the laser and they're like, oh, I need an enclosure. And they get the enclosure and they go, oh, I really want a camera. And they find out their enclosure is not suited for the camera that they need. So it'd be great if they're putting the forethought into that to be able to add that on as well. So
yeah. Make sure here.
Well, Jody, glad you could make it, and hope this is hope it's all the hype that it's been built up to be for you. So if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and drop them down. We'll try to get to them as well.
Yeah, I don't know how you would go about engraving black, clear acrylic black, Jim. I mean, you could do it with Trademark and try it if you melt or regular. So you could probably use regular spray paint and just melt the acrylic enough to get the black spray paint to kind of pigment it a little.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could find settings, you know, using some of those white paints that have the titanium dioxide in them that would have that black effect to it. But I would say a vinyl cutter and just stick it on.
Yeah. All right, I think we're caught up, guys. If we missed your comment, feel free to drop it back down if we didn't get to you, because sometimes we're scrolling through these things so fast that we don't see everything.
So it's all of them are going to have the max settings in the config file. So if you're using LightBurn, you can go into your edit and go to device or machine settings, and then you can read from controller, and then it will list all the settings for it, and you'll be able to see your max rate for your X, your Y, and whatnot. And those are sometimes even different from their advertised specs. So it's a good thing to check either way. You can also go into, I think, just the console and hit $$, and and that will display it as well. And then they'll list them all out, but then you gotta know which one it is. That's where if you go into the edit and the machine settings, you'll be able to it kind of lists them out there.
Yeah, it gives you an explanation of what they are. Now, little waiver here before you start messing with these things. It is not a bad idea to go down here and save this to a file and go and create yourself a place for it. I don't even know which machine I'm in. I'm in Atom Stack. So go into here and create you a backup copy of these settings and go ahead and save them before you mess with them. That way, if you mess something up, you can always load your backup and fix it. Because you can really mess a machine up if you click the wrong thing in here.
Yeah, and if you don't do that, then you're going to have to call your friendly laser guy down in Alabama and say, "Hey, buddy, hey, got a favor to ask you."
Not that you've ever done that, Steve.
No, never.
Hey, I have too. I've called Steve and I'm like, "Steve, bro, could you please send me the machine files for this machine because I have messed mine up." But after doing that once or twice, you learn before you start messing with those things. Create a backup copy, and that way you always can go back to default settings. So, like I said, those are lessons learned the hard way.
Yep.
There we go. John said he set the 300. I'm guessing he meant LPI.
Yeah.
On the blue, it seems to be good between 200 and 300. Yeah, LPI is another characteristic that sometimes people overlook with diodes, especially when you're dealing with a hard surface that can take it, like anodized aluminum. Anytime you're doing something with powder coating, mirrors, glass, stuff like that, you can run that LPI up and get a whole different effect from the standard 127 going to 254, just going to 200. It actually makes a difference. A lot of wood, you can actually get a black burn. I see people spraying stuff all over their wood, and they're like, "I'm trying to get a black engrave, and so I'm going to put washing detergent all over my wood." And all that really does is creates a lot of soot that's going to blow off first time you hit it with an air hose, or it's going to smear and get all over everything. LPI, focus, speed, and power. Those are the things to get the
Well,
black.
and even playing, you and I have talked about this in the past. Even playing around with your air assist, certain levels of air assist will enhance your engraving. There's a
Yes.
lot of people who think that it detracts from it, it weakens it, but I actually took some video the other day that it was for something completely different, but I happenstance where the air off versus the air on, the air on was much darker, and I was like, ah, man, I wish I would have been thinking about capturing that
Yeah.
because it is a thing that can affect your engraving as well. So
Well, it's just like anytime when you're burning something, back in the old days, we had what they call it, the
mhm.
bellows. And when you're trying to get the fire started, you fanned it with a little bit of air.
Now when you say
What causes the blackening is it's actually charring the wood a little bit. So if you introduce a little bit of air to it, sometimes it will. It'll amplify that burned effect instead of just obliterating the wood completely without leaving a burn mark.
when you say back in the old days, are we talking like medieval times or what? I mean, you seem like you got some
No,
experience here.
back when I was a kid.
Okay.
No, we didn't get we did. Hey, I was born shortly after we got running water and everything around here.
So the 80s?
Yeah, well, late '70s, early '70s, or early. I can remember going to my granddaddy's house and having to use the outhouse,
Nice.
and my uncle's house and actually having to draw water out of the well. So, hmm. There were a lot of people in our area that did not like all that newfangled electricity and running water and stuff. Me, I personally, I'm a fan. I don't know
And
how they did without it back
yeah,
in the. I would not have made it in the 1900s. I would have died.
yeah.
But I love my technology.
So this one's out there a little bit. Is there a difference between the Ruida and the Raycon controllers? I don't have experience with the Raycon Rexon controllers. My understanding is I don't know if there's a connection between them, but the Raycon and Rexon are kind of like more of a budget minded board that maybe has fewer features to it. Most of my CO2 experience with larger lasers has been with true Ruida boards, and honestly, if I would try to stick with it. They're well known and probably going to be easier to get. It's considering some of these machines, your only support is through groups like this. I would stick with something that's maybe a little more well known, and unless it's something you're happening into with someone's giving you something or it's a really good deal, and give it a shot. But if given the choice, I would stick with a true Ruida.
There's another question for you on engraving. Oh, I see another one, another good one up there. I forgot to click.
Uh, I don't.
Me neither.
The I try to find the right settings that are just gonna get the marking down, and even if you have to clean it a little bit and then re-oil it afterwards or whatnot, that's not the end of the world. I just get concerned with the adhesive backing of whatever you're going to put the mask on. Can pull at the fibers of the leather, or they can be left debris on the edges of where it's actually burned away. And I just try to stay away from that. Leather's one of those things that can stain fairly easily until it's finished. So I generally don't.
Yeah, I have tried it, but it gets to you start trying to get all that sticky stuff out of there. It gets to be a pain. I actually get darker leather, and then when I get through engraving it, I use like some 220 grit sandpaper. If it needs it, I'll sandpaper it a little bit with that 220 grit after I've cleaned it, and voila. If anything, it brings it down a shade or two lighter. If I want to go back darker, then I just take some leather dye or
Mhm.
saddle soap or something and hit it a lick, and it's back like it ought to be. So yeah, I'm a big advocate of just work with it and clean it up afterwards, just like with the wood stuff. I got sandpaper for that.
I think Don's asked this one a couple times, so I don't know if you saw it, and I don't know if you have an S9 to compare it to, but he's wondering if the interchangeable jig will fit.
No, I asked that. I tried to answer that earlier. I'm not sure if the S9 is the same as the S30. I don't think it is. I have it for the S30 Ultra and the S30 Standard, and the only reason I have it for the S30 Standard is I had somebody that was really wanting a copy of the jig for the S30 Standard, and he just happened to be really good at blueprinting things, and so he blueprinted it, sent me the blueprint. I modified the file and made one for the S30, and actually nailed it the first try, which was surprising. That was a testament to his ability to draw things out, because I went by his drawing, his measurements, and made the file. Which all I had to really do was just bring it in a little bit, because the S30 and the S30 Ultra are the same machine. It's just a wider stance. So really all I had to do was just bring it in. Everything else was the same. Yeah, I saw that one. I was going to put that
Yeah,
one.
yes, Doug. So millimeters per rotation is steps per rotation. Technically, they're not the same thing, but the way they're being applied, it is. So you're trying to dial in your rotary, usually a chuck rotary, to understand how many steps it takes to make a full turn, and then from there it can do the math based on your diameter or circumference. So like on my CO2 laser and rotary, I had to dial in its steps per rotation, whereas on all the diodes, it's been this millimeter setup, but it's effectively doing the same thing.
It's basically trying to figure out how many times it's got to make a movement to go all the way around. Russ said he found out the same thing's true about editing. Back up your work before you start.
Yep.
That is true. Window editing, that is very true.
Yeah, I do this a lot. Is I'll just name my files like V1, V2, V3, and that way, if I get so far down and go, oh, I really screwed this up, I can go back a few versions.
Yeah. Well, the good thing about LightBurn is he's got that infinite undo button.
Yeah, until you save and close it, and then come back and go, oh, oops.
Yeah, missed that one.
So I did that with my my enclosure plans for a while, because I was trying to. At first, it was just hypothetical. I was all designing it in CAD, going, well, I think I might like this. I think I might like that. But then all of a sudden, I'm like, no, I'm going to change this design. But I would say, okay, let's leave this one where it's at, and we'll start V2. That way, if I need to come back to this point, I can.
Yeah, I do that a lot in Fusion. When I'm designing in Fusion, I'll have like version 10 before I finally get it right. Richard, good night to you there, sir. Have a good night.
Yep.
I am. This time change has got me messed up.
It's got my cat really messed up. He's waiting for his food at the wrong hour.
I'm starting to yawn already, and it's just now 8:30. It's like, oh my goodness.
Yep.
All right, guys, hour and 22 minutes in. So, we're going to keep us around. Me and Steve can't stay up much later than about 9. So, if you haven't already checked out Laser Engraver community page, go jump on that guy. I think most everybody I've seen in here, I see a few new faces. I think most everybody's a member, but if you're not, go check it out. Nice place to exchange some information and cool ideas, and get inspired for your next lasering project.
I'm going to argue on this one. I want to keep daylight savings time and end standard time. give me that daylight at the end of the day. I don't care about it in the morning.
Well, I think the whole idea is just quit changing back and forth.
Yeah, but I'm afraid they're going to leave it on standard time, and then I'm going to have these summer mornings that are going to start at like 4 a.m. And I'm like, forget that. Give me the daylight at the end of the day.
Okay, Sharon, we're going to need a little more to go on. What you got, Sharon? I thought I saw her put something up earlier about something, but we didn't get to it. Oh, it was an enclosure. What was it?
She's wondering about the vacuum table. That's the earlier question I see from her.
Is yours a downdraft?
Not technically. I've got my my exhaust towards the back, and it's split between the top and the bottom. And so my next design, though, I do want to be a downdraft. As a matter of fact, my friend Mike has been playing around with an open. He has no enclosure, but he he's using a much larger fan, and it creates a really good downdraft around the entire extended bed.
Kind of like my Atom Stack little downdraft thing that I made.
Well, yeah, very much like that. But he's using like I think a 6 or an 8 inch fan
Woo!
to pull the air down through it. And he was showing it to me the other day. We were using a little incense burner to create just some smoke around different spots, and it was pulling it all down, even from the middle and such to the edges. So, yeah, it's going to be in my next design when I get around to making more of an extended enclosure.
Yeah. Sharon, the biggest thing, it doesn't necessarily have to be vacuum, so to speak. You just want to, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, you want to pull the smoke down away from all of the expensive parts of your laser. That's what that honeycomb is made for, is to give those gases a place to go underneath. And then you want to extract that stuff from there and expel it outside instead of having it regurgitate it through your cooling fan on your laser. John, the backs actually, I don't want to say it too loud because I'm afraid my leg will hear me. But so far today, the pain has been at the least I've felt in over a month, about 6 weeks now. I did have a couple of days of setback, which I thought were because I had overdone it. But after sitting on the couch for 2 days and it progressively getting worse, I finally just decided that maybe I needed to use the leg instead of letting it just sit. And so I powered through the pain for an hour or two, and have doubled up on some of my vitamins and stuff. And so far, it's getting better quicker now than it was a week ago. So that's good. I'm hoping to get released from the doctor Tuesday when I go back to see him. So we'll see how that goes. Chris, typically the vacuum, the way that I built this one, and this one actually still does run on a shop vac, because it works for this thing, and I use a $30 shop vac. It'll last me a year. If it blows up, I just plug another one in and go. But this one actually does work off of a shop vac, and I've got holes in the bottom underneath the honeycomb. And when I turn the shop vac on, which the shop vac is actually outside the building, it just sucks it through and goes out there. I've got a switch underneath my table that powers the vacuum on and off and on. So, but mine is used strictly to vacate the smoke. And the reason I started doing that, to be honest, is when I first got into lasering, I didn't want to go buy a fan, and I had an extra small shop vac sitting around. So I'm like, hey, this thing moves air. We'll use it. But the trick to it is you got to take all the filters and stuff out of those things. You just got to let it basically be a fan with some duct. They are a lot more noisy, so if you can't get it outside, it's not necessarily the best idea. But when I first got into lasering, having an extra shop vac sitting around, that was the most economical way that I could do it, and I've just kind of stuck with it. I do want to get me another 6-inch fan like I've got an Enclosure Zilla. I've got a Vivor 6-inch, which I haven't done a video on yet. And it's doing a really good job, but I want to get another one and put in here, but I just haven't done that yet. So, yeah, Clang, apparently walking and using the leg actually has helped me out a lot. so yeah. I'm hoping I only had to have one back surgery.
So, yeah, I mean, going back to your earlier thing, shop vacs will work, but they are built more for high static pressure suction than they are for airflow. And that's why using an inline fan or a dust collector fan is going to work more because you're trying to basically move air through there. You're not so much trying to hold material down or create a lot of pressure there. You're just trying to move air through it. So you can make it work with the shop vac, but it's going to work better the more airflow you can get through there. And that's usually, using an inline fan or like a dust collector type fan. So
I will say, like I said, my 4-inch Han and Guan is quieter, and even the 6-inch Vivor is quieter than the shop
oh yeah,
vac,
definitely, yes, yeah.
And I'm going to redo this one. I just
okay.
when I finally got a fan freed up is when the back started giving me trouble, and I didn't want to be crawling around on the floor under here. And then I got the X tool, and I'm having to use the X tool, the 4-inch fan, to get me on out the door over there. So,
Yeah.
but but yeah,
Yeah, Sharon, a 4-inch inline fan will work up to a point. It's going to depend on the length of piping and the number of bends and things like that it's got to work through. The more distance or the more bends you add to it, it's going to struggle to maintain the airflow. So if you've got a fairly straight and fairly short distance of maybe 6 to 8 feet, it's probably going to do all right. But once you start really stretching it out there, or adding a couple of sharp bends in there, it's going to really slow down and be less effective.
and you also have to ensure that you have enough inlet to allow that fan to do what it's supposed to do. Because if you don't have enough inlet, it's not going to pull the smoke
Yeah,
out.
the last thing you want is a sealed enclosure, because all it's going to do is try to pull a vacuum on that, and it's not going to be moving it much of anything.
Yep. And if you're like Steve, you want to make sure you're not putting out too much air, because you'll be pulling a draft under the door from that 30 degree below zero.
Yeah, well, it's got. I mean, but that's part of it too. I mean, whatever room you are in, you're pulling air out of through your enclosure outside. It's going to want to replace that. So yeah, that's one of the difficult things in my detached shop, is that it's got to suck air in from the outside. So,
Well, one good thing about EnclosureZilla here is EnclosureZilla has an exterior air inlet, so it pulls the air in from outside and blows it back outside.
yeah, without a really efficient heat exchanger, that is not going to be working up here in January, February, because you'll see icicles on that laser pretty quickly.
You would not have to worry about your machine getting caught.
Uh,
Hey, here's an idea.
yeah,
You could incorporate some line from your CO2 into the back of your enclosure, like some clear line, and pump the water for your CO2 through the enclosure, and it would be a chiller for your CO2 as
yeah,
well.
well, it doesn't.
It doesn't
It
work.
doesn't work too well that way. Yeah, no, that's where you get a little judicious about when you do engravings and such. Because yeah, the problem is too, a lot of people talk about, can I run my CO2 laser in my unheated garage in winter in northern climates, and the while they may function, the problem is you're going to start having to deal with cold materials all of a sudden getting flashed with heat, and then that you can deal with condensation, and or the
Yeah,
shock of it will sometimes cause damage to things. So
yeah. Sharon, as far as plans, there's a couple of plans for my enclosures are in the laser engraving community page. The one is going to be for my EnclosureZilla, and the other one is just a basic enclosure. And Steve said his doesn't necessarily have a downdraft set up in it. I mean, my EnclosureZilla has downdraft, but it's probably a lot more enclosure than what you're looking for, because this thing is like 4 foot wide to house the P20 extended or the V35 extended. But yeah. Oh, let's see right here. This is something we need to tackle. We need to tackle this. This is what we need to do. I need to come up with, or I need to come up as many meth labs I have been in and took down. I'm kind of curious if the kitty litter in a 5-gallon bucket would work with these lasers.
I think you're talking about some different particulate.
No, no. You got 2 or 3 5-gallon buckets. The first one is water. It's kind of like a water bong. You got to take the smoke and you pump it through the water. When it comes out of the water, then the tube takes it over into the bucket with the kitty litter, and it permeates through the kitty litter, and then it comes out into the bucket of what is it? The vermiculite. So it's like a 3-stage filter system. They use it a lot in motel rooms when they're cooking meth.
So
back in the day.
But that's not going to have the volume of air going through it
I don't think it would either.
that you need. Really, what you're looking for on just the very entry level is you're talking about these BOFA filters, and I'll try to drop these links in for people to get the sticker shock on them. Uh, they're very expensive. I mean, this one that I just linked is the type you'd get for kind of our hobby size lasers, and then the filters for them, to refill them, are $500 or something like that per stack.
Ew.
And that might even just that's the HEPA carbon filter, and then there's the pre-filter, which is another 158. So it's not cheap to do it. And that's gonna, kind of get you some fairly clean air coming in and out. And but these are really geared at industrial places or educational places where, they're actually dealing with, legit OSHA air quality requirements and such, versus our private business or small business or personal hobby stuff. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to think there are ways. What kind of I mean, are we? When you say it's not possible to vent outside, I mean, are you living in like a nuclear bunker, or? I mean, because there's a lot of variables that you could possibly do. If you go on Amazon, they make these little vents that are made for the indoor air conditioners that everybody's using now. The little, one room. You slide it in the corner, plug it in the wall, and you've got a duct that you stick out the window, and it cools the room. There's a lot of those things on Amazon that you can buy to where if you're using a laser, you could open your window, put this insert in there, lower the window down onto it. It's got like foam that it helps seal, and it's adjustable for most window sizes. And you can get those with a 3 or 4 inch outlet, and you can vent it. If you were in a 2-story apartment, you could vent it out the window. Now, somebody might be able to smell it. They may realize that it's not an air conditioner, but there are
well,
options that you could
and
go look at.
and while that is an option, if there's a screen in that window, you got to understand that when you remove that pipe after running your laser for a little while, there's going to be a nice dark spot on that screen that's going to smell funny too. So
You're gonna want yourself a little
you're
brush.
going to need to clean that. Yep.
Whisk that off with.
Well, it might not whisk off. Some of it's that vapor stuff. I mean, you
Yeah.
take a look at the fans after they've been running these lasers for a while, and I've got my I've got my outlet out in my shop that you go look at the the kind of the wind flap thing on the outside of it. Yeah, it's pretty pretty gross. So his problem.
You mean like that?
Well, yeah, that's kind of what it starts looking like. So that's that stuff's going to be on any, it's going to be on the screen. It's going to be on anything that's out there. So, well, you could remove the screen, but yeah, it's if you don't have that option, I mean, you can look at the others. I'm actually in the middle of testing the X Tool 1, so I'm trying to get some good time on it to kind of see how it does over the period. It does a lot to cut it down, and it removes the particulate, it removes the haze, but you're still going to kind of have that smell of, okay, someone had a campfire here, or worse if it's acrylic. So, but it does do a pretty good job.
Or leather.
Well, yeah, I've run it in my basement shop here a bit, and I've asked my wife, hey, are you smelling this in the rest of the house or anything? She's like, no, not until I come down into your workshop here. So it does do a lot to help contain it. The question is how long, because even those filter stacks are, I think, $150 a piece to replace. So it's something that'll work to a point. But even those, I think, on sale are like $700 or something like that. So it's not a cheap thing to filter out. So I feel for you when you don't have an option.
ET, that one been running for about a year, and it got clean when I took it out. I blew it out with an air hose. That's about all I do to it. So, but I did actually blow that one out with the air hose to get most of the big stuff. I haven't sat down and hit it with a brush or anything. But that's the old fan that I was running over here. I replaced it with a new 6-inch Vivor fan, because the 4-inch, when I got the 35, the 4-inch was working fine with the P20, but when I got the V35, it was generating so much smoke because it was cutting so much faster that the 4-inch just wasn't quite keeping up, and I started noticing an accumulation of smoke inside the enclosure. It wasn't getting into the shop; it was still getting it out, but it just wasn't getting it out fast enough, uh, to the point to where I had some smoke and stuff kind of hanging around my module, and I don't like that. I like for it to pull it out, get it out of there without it sitting hanging around my module. So I took the 4-inch out and replaced it with the 6-inch. I'm still running 4-inch ducting, which I know is killing the efficiency of the fan a little bit, but it gave me just enough boost to where I have a clean workspace in here with no lingering smoke, without having to go through and drill a new hole in the building, a new hole in the enclosure. All I did was got me some adapters and choked that 6-inch fan down to 4-inch tubes. It does increase the pressures in the lines just a little bit, but I've literally got 4 foot of hose from the enclosure to the outside of the building. So that little bit of increase in pressure, I don't think is going to be a big factor for that 6-inch fan. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm the same way, Chris. I'm out here, like literally, if I decide I need a vent somewhere, this is what I do. I go over here, I grab my 4-inch hole saw, I take a long drill bit and I shoot it from the inside to the outside of the building. And then I take this drill, I go to the inside and I cut that part. Then I go to the outside, cut that part, and then I remove the tin, remove the wood, grab the insulation, shove a pipe out the hole, and I'm good. So that is this is the good part about being in a shack. You just have to find a 4-inch hole saw, which aren't that easy to find, by the way.
Yeah, they can be tricky to find. Electrical supply stores sometimes have them when your other stores don't, because they do a lot of that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. But yeah, it works. It works well. But yeah, I said I can't really think of anything that would work to get rid of all the smoke if you were in a basement and didn't have access to some type of ventilation. That would be a situation where it'd be tough. I'd probably try to see how much somebody would charge me to come and put in just put in a 4-inch exhaust tube, almost like one of those little dryer tubes that they put in, just to have.
well, I mean
where you
that's
can exhaust
that's
that way.
assuming you own the property. If you're renting, then you're
Yeah.
stuck with not
Yeah.
not damaging the property that much. So,
True. True.
but yeah, if I ever upgrade my furnace, or not my furnace, but my water heater is the last thing. So my house is built back in the late 20s, 1920s. Boy, it's almost 100 years old now, I guess. It still has a chimney. That the only thing left running up out of it is the water heater, but it has a nice 6-inch port that if I upgraded that to direct vent on the water heater, or maybe went tankless or something like that and moved it, I'd have a nice vent that would just go right up out the top, and no one would be the wiser
Yep.
that's anything going on there. So I mean, I've got neighbors that have wood burning stoves and such, and everybody in my neighborhood seems to have backyard campfires or any form of smokers. So I mean, like, barbecue smokers. So really, the general wood cutting stuff, they can't complain about.
Now you start cutting a whole bunch of leather, they may
Well,
notice.
leather or acrylic, that's the stuff I try to wait for the wind to be the right direction if I'm going to be cutting acrylic.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's see here. I use 3/4 inch cabinet grade birch plywood, and I screw it together with screws. Lots of nice screws. If you're really paranoid, you can glue it, but just make sure you've got it the way you want it when you glue it, because it's hard to get that birch plywood apart once you've glued it. But 3/4 inch ply, once you put a couple of walls on there and you put a few screws in, it's not going to go anywhere. Now, do understand you're screwing into the end of plywood, so load bearing. You're not going to want to be parking a car on it or anything. But as far as hold it together for an enclosure, it works fine. I did build one the other day for my buddy, and believe it or not, we built an entire enclosure out of a sheet and a half of 1/4 inch Luan and 5 2x2 furring strips. We framed it out with the 2x2s and then skinned it with Luan, and it turned out to be a really nice looking enclosure. And I smoke tested it before it left here. We did some engraving in it and hooked a fan to it, and it had great uh, amount of flow through the machine after we put the holes in for all the cabling and everything, and it worked really really good. I was impressed. We actually done really well considering. Let me see if I can upload this thing and I'll show it to you guys. But yeah, it was this was he wanted an enclosure. He wanted to start his hand at laser engraving, but he wanted something that was light enough that he could move it around the house without having to have a set of hand trucks or call for help. And so that's what we wound up doing was we built it. Like I said, we built it out of 2x2 strips and about a sheet and a half of Luan. I think the whole build was less than $100 for us to get it built, and it turned out pretty good. Now he's still got to add some lights. He's still got to get him a better collet for the smoke extraction. I didn't have anything we could use. So,
What are you talking about? You got a 3D printer. You could have made one.
I tried printing it twice, and it was going to take 5 hours on my little printer.
Well,
I actually did print. The one that's on it, I actually did print it, but the print went bad right at the top. So here it is right here. This is what we wound up making, and that is a Two Trees TS20 that's in the box right there. But
there we go.
But yeah, that's what we ended up making, and we actually engraved this cutting board in the machine and smoke tested it. That's one of those little cheap computer fans that comes in some of those cloth enclosures. We retrofitted it to work with his machine, and it did a pretty good job. Like I said, the cabling and everything comes in up here, and so you've got your fresh air coming in here, going across here and out the fan, so it kind of keeps everything pulled away from it. Even though it's not a downdraft, it done a pretty good job of keeping everything pulled to the back. Of course, he's got like a 12 by 12 piece of JTech Photonics that I had laying around. We stuck it in the door because he didn't have anything. And because it was so lightweight, basically the door is just a shell. And I put these little braces on here just to kind of sturdy it up. And we used a 24-inch piano hinge for the top. And I mean, literally, we built this thing in like 2 or 3 hours. The majority of it you can see is shot together with a trim gun. So it was interesting. It was an interesting build. And we just sit down and and like cleared the table off and was like, all right, let's build an enclosure. How big do we need it? And we decided to go with 32 by 32 for the footprint. So,
yeah, I need to. You've seen the backlog.
Oh, you forgot to change your name.
Oh, when I came back in.
When you come back in here,
Oh.
you can actually change it though.
So when I need to go and pick up some lumber and some plywood because I really need an additional table out in my shop to be able to get more. I need a place. So I've got my assembly table where I can work and test on lasers, but then I need a place that I can actually set some up to run more long term out there. And so I'm hopefully going to hit that up before the snow flies too much, because I've been kind of mulling on what design I want, and I think I've just analysis paralysis on it. I'm just going to go get some lumber and start gluing and screwing and cutting, and at least get something there that I can have that extra surface and a little storage underneath and roll with it. So
yeah, well, my plans as soon as my back gets better is that wall over there where I used to, like, all my little wrenches and stuff is hanging. I'm wanting to clear that out, get me a toolbox that can house all of my mechanics tools and my automotive stuff, and then I want to build me another rack right down through there to put some stuff. I see what you did. But and I got to fix that where my heater used to be. I got to cut me a couple of more boards and put up there where that tin is. Because I'm tired of looking at that piece of tin. It makes no sense to have that tin back there. Oh, we're just we're gonna be going at this all night.
Yeah, Doug. Horizontal surfaces are at a premium, and they're a danger zone for just collecting things. So that's where when I'm working on putting in a new work surface, I'm thinking about the storage I need for those items. So
Yeah. Yeah, when I first moved into this shop, I had plenty of room. And now this side, I have it. I mean, I am making use of everything from the floor to the ceiling over here, all the way around through here. It starts getting chaotic right there to the front door. That's the section. That one little, I guess that's what about 14-foot section is really what's kind of giving me a hard time.
So, Mark, yeah, actually, Clack's got that set up in his enclosure Zilla, but my problem is when it gets to the really cold winter months, I'd be pulling in some cases sub-zero temperatures, and that's not going to play nice with some of the electronics and the heat and such. So, might work well for summer and most of spring and fall, but I don't think I'd want to be pulling in that frigid air across the machine, risking some condensation and such. So
Yeah, if I can get a camera set up, I'll show you. Yeah, this is gonna work. Maybe I can just show you this way. Let me see if I can swap to it. Let me see if I upside down.
okay,
Oh, upside down. I knew it was gonna be upside down. Okay, yeah. There's enclosure Zilla, and right there in the back, when I power the machine on and the fan cuts on, it creates suction, which pulls that flap open slightly and allows just enough air to come through, but it still maintains positive pressure out here. And you can see by my debris buildup. Wait a minute, my camera's done got discombobulated again. Golly, I gotta get me a wireless camera for this. You can see right here, I do have positive pressure inside because I need to clean this. I got a little dust buildup right there where it sucks the air in. But that pulls open slightly when I turn the, hang on, let me turn it on.
I think we're all going to need an Amazon link to some Dramamine.
But you can see right now, because the door's open, the flap's closed because it's pulling the air from inside the shop out. But when I close the door, you'll see that, you can see that it, I don't know if you can see it. Hang on, let me do it again. Can you see it pop open? So what it is when I close the door, it seals this side, and so it pulls the air in from outside. That just goes straight through the wall to the outside world. There you go. I gotta get me a camera with like a really long cable. But that's how that works.
So, it hasn't gotten cold down there yet, has it?
Oh yeah, it was in like the 30. I think I got it like 30, 33, 34 the other night.
So no.
That's cold for here.
But
I mean, if it gets down to like below the 20s, like we're having to leave our water running and stuff.
So Camarogs is asking if your mini split heater's been working.
Oh yeah, it worked great. Now I can't tell you it works great during the heat because we had plenty of that. It got up to close to 100. Now the days that it got up to like 100, 102, 101, it got a little warm in here. It got up to like 80 or 81 in here, but it beat the heck out of 101. With in the afternoons and early in the mornings, it was great. During the heat of the day, it got a little hot. But now I still haven't got this back 20-foot sectional wall. Still doesn't have insulation in it yet. My back kind of put me out on that. So,
well, we had a couple days already where it didn't get above freezing, but then it's bounced back here now. We were 50s and 60s this weekend, which is nice, but it's gonna slowly creep back down now. My friend Mike, who's got the Atom Stack A30 extended one, he's got a mini split for cooling and heating in his new garage, but he also has a backup furnace gas heater in there if it gets too cold. So I'm kind of waiting to see how his works over the winter, and if his mini split's able to kind of maintain in there. I'm going to probably try to see what brand that was, because that's kind of my bigger concern. Is I'd like to put one in. I'm more concerned about it working in the winter. It doesn't need to work that hard in the summer for me, because while it does get a little hot, my shop's insulated well enough. It just needs to pull that humidity down a little bit and bring it down. It didn't. I don't think it really in the shop got above, maybe 80, low 80s at any, during the worst part of the summer up here. And the worst part about that was the humidity was up with it as well. So it got sticky in there really quick. So for me, I'm more concerned at how well will it perform, down into those single digits. I'm not expecting it to keep at 80 degrees in there. I wouldn't want it that warm, but if it can keep it in the, the 60s for a workshop for me in the winter, that's toasty.
Yeah, well, I will tell you this. I've got a couple of family members that are in the air conditioning business, and I put a 1.5 ton unit in this shop, and it's a 24 by 20, and it's insulated, but not well insulated. Behind these 3/4 inch pine boards right there, I've got a layer of tar paper that I went and put in. I had to take the tin off the outside of the building to do this. But I've got tar paper behind there as a sealant, and then I've got insulation, and then I've got tin. So, I mean, it is a little drafty. I did the best I could with the Pink Panther insulation, stuffing it in all the cracks and all that. But the front of my building, of course, I got a 14-foot roll-up door that's not insulated. I have added a one of those little brush seals to it that looks like a broom on the outside, and I've also got me some little foam that I stick in the crack on the inside to kind of try to seal it off best I can. But I have to be able to snatch that out and raise the door and let it open it up if I want to on those cool days where I can let some air in and all that. But the back is still not insulated. I do have the top insulated. And the way he explained it to me, where we are, the summer is a true test for an air conditioner here. If it can keep up during the summer, it's a cakewalk for the wintertime. Because most of the time, we're going to be above 32 degrees. And like heat pumps, below 32 degrees, that's when they start having challenges they have to overcome. But from what he told me, if it made it through the summer, it's going to do really good this winter, is what I'm being told. So,
well, and that's the thing up here is they have some heat pump units that are actually more geared towards northern climates. And it technically, I've seen some rated to work down below zero. Now, it's not necessarily going to be, like I say, you're not necessarily going to be keeping in this space at 80 degrees, but that's not what I'm looking for. And when it gets that cold, I don't mind augmenting it a little bit, considering what I have going right now keeps it warm, but at a greater expense than it would be to run most of those units. Yeah. So yeah, I'm kind of keeping an eye on it, and then I'm hoping this next year to get everything kind of in place to do a better job out there, keep the humidity down, add a little cooling during the warm months, but definitely moderate it easier at less cost to me utility wise during the winter.
Well, even during the summer, this summer, my power bill for the shop stayed at like $150 a month, which is really cheap considering what all I've got going. You've seen how much stuff I've got running out here, and with the air compressors. Now I haven't ran the kiln a whole lot, and when I run that kiln, that thing will knock my power bill up by $5 a day. But typically, when I'm doing that, I'm either drying a whole load of wood for myself, or I've got somebody paying me $5 a day to run it to dry for them. Mm-hmm. But yeah, right now I've just got the dehumidifier running in the kiln. I don't have the heat turned on. I've just got a dehumidifier running in there, and I've got the air conditioner here, and of course, all of my lights for the most part are LED now. I did away with all the old, fluorescents back when I did the remodel. So, but yeah, but I'll let you know. But so far, I don't know. It's kind of cold outside tonight. Let me see. Echo, what's the temperature outside?
Wow, it's
Echo, what's the temperature outside?
So cold, can't even think.
Right now, it's 51 degrees Fahrenheit. Tonight, expect a low of 45 degrees.
You tell me it's 51 degrees down there right now?
Yeah, but now it's supposed to get down to 45, so it's going to be kind of cold.
Well, you should come up here. It's warmer. It's 58.
Really? Wow, that's unreal. But yeah, it's we're supposed to be getting an Arctic blast this week, so yeah, it's it's supposed to be getting cold. It's actually we had some, like I said, it was down to 33 or 34 the other night. The heat actually kicked on in the house for a little while.
Yeah, drone. I've looked at those diesel heaters as an option, but I just the getting insurance and building codes involved and whatnot. It's too much of a hassle for that. I've seen a lot of people make them work well in some shops and garages and such, but yeah, it's not going to work for me in my situation and where my stuff is located. So
Wow, I'm actually cooler than a lot of places around.
yeah,
Jeez, that doesn't happen very often.
tell you, you're going to want to come north this winter.
Hey, I may, seriously. You never know. If it gets colder down here this year than it does up there, I'm gonna haunt you. I'm gonna come up there and just hang out. If I have to shovel snow this year, Steve, oh my goodness, that'd make for a cool video though. But yeah, during the day it gets kind of warm here. I don't know what the high was today, but it was pretty warm.
Yeah.
Echo, what was the high temperature today?
Today, expect a high of 77 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, so it's like 77 here today.
Well, we had some extreme southerly winds blowing a lot of hot air up from down there, so that's kind of why we're
In
pretty warm.
Belize.
So
How's it only 78 in Belize? Isn't that that's down, or is that below the equator? I bet that's below, isn't it? Geography not my strong suit either, guys. Where is Belize? I think it's further south.
I'm pretty sure it's in the northern part of South America.
Let me see. I'm finna look it up. Oh no, actually. Okay, Google's sending me on a wild goose chase here. No, it's right. I mean, they're like literally right down
wrong.
by the Panama Canal.
Yeah, they're
Yeah, he's not far from Panama. So yeah, he's like right on the equator, and he's
north of it.
It's yeah, yeah. Klein may have to move up there with you if it gets too cold. He don't like it cold either. I can't handle it. Mark said it's 94.
Well,
you're in Arizona, aren't you, Mark? Yeah, Gillette says Central America.
Yeah, I stand corrected, but I guarantee you it's going to be colder up here than down there this winter. You know, they talk about the weather patterns, how it's going to be maybe a milder winter up here, or maybe less snow. But that, when you're talking about less snow, they're talking like, maybe we won't get 70 inches, we'll get 60 inches of snow. So.
Oh man, I tell you. Let me see. Let me Google it. Let me just Google it right here. What's it? What is the average? I could just ask Echo. Snowfall in Chilton County. Chilton County averages 0 inches of snow per year. Yeah. That's what it says. And that's true. If we get a ½ inch of snow, we'll be doing good. Now we do average 55 inches of rain.
Well, jeez.
Yeah.
How are you not a swamp?
We're a rainforest, man. We're like a northern rainforest here. It says we average 55 inches of rain and we have 212 sunny days per year. So, yeah. Chilton County gets some type of precipitation on average 102 days per year, which is what, 1 out of 3, almost 1 out of 3 days. And we got 0 inches of snow, and it says that you have to have over 0.01 inches to count. So, yeah. The last time it snowed here has been a couple of years ago, and I think we got like ½ an inch, and it was gone by lunch.
Well, I will wish you the best when that happens.
Hey, I'm telling you, if we get snow, I'm gonna go live. Y'all gonna see a live from the Clack Shack blizzard in Chilton County. Last time we had one, I got my drone out and flew it all over the
If I
place.
went live every time we had snow last year, I would have been live like every other day. It was ridiculous, and that was the thing that was frustrating. Is it wasn't, sometimes it's just 1 to 3 inches of snow, but when that happens
See,
like every other day, it just gets really annoying.
see, it's not just me. Jody's up in Arkansas, and they said anything over an inch is a major deal for them. See, it's all y'all Southern Canadians up there. That's what the problem is. Is you live so close to the Arctic Circle that you just can't help it.
Close to the Arctic Circle,
You're closer than I
like
am.
maybe halfway between. Good grief.
It's probably warmer in Alaska right now than it is where you are.
Well, see, Alaska's got all that ocean area. They often are. We're just in the wrong spot. You get all that Arctic air from Canada. It blows south right over Minnesota, and that's where we're at. So,
All right, let's see. Oh, well, no, it's 30 degrees in Alaska.
well, what part of Alaska?
It doesn't say.
What? Alaska is huge.
It's just, I'm just telling you what Google says. It just says Alaska. Yeah, I know the farthest reach. Maybe that's the average temperature.
All right. Well, we've kind of gone long on weather now, so
Yeah, but anyway, man. Yeah, like I said, but you're not that far. Anyway, yeah. Well, no, it snowed last year. I think but it melted. It was on my back porch for about 3 or 4 hours. Yeah, Mike said it's 70 or 80 in Atlanta this week, about the same as us. Yeah, Mike, you're kind of like just straight across from us, more or less, maybe a little north. But anyway, guys, yeah, we've run over. We have gotten off down a rabbit hole talking about weather and air conditioners. We've talked about everything but lasers for the past 45 minutes. But it's been fun though, guys. And I now know where Belize is, and it'll be at least a week or two before I forget. So, a park bench and some pigeon food. What's he trying to say? We getting old? I've got chickens. Does that count?
all right. Well, thanks everyone for stopping by again tonight. It's been fun. If you haven't followed either one of us, we would appreciate that on our various channels on Facebook. We both have Instagram pages. We try to mix it up and drop content all across those. And so it's a good way to keep up with us. And we also have our laser engraver community page. It's linked down below for mine. I think Clack linked it as well. Just went over 1,000 members in there, and we're keeping it fun, keeping it real. So, connect with us and others there as well. Otherwise, we will hopefully see you again next week, but keep an eye on both our channels for more fun content coming out in between that. So I'll let you close it out, Clack.
Yes, sir. I just realized Drone Ranger is actually in Alaska. So there you go. We now have coverage in Alaska.
Nice.
I think we get in the extremes. We've got Belize, we've got Australia, now we've got Alaska, got you up there in South Canada. I mean, we're covering all over the place. But yeah, guys, like I said, anytime Sunday night, 7:00 p.m. as long as we can make it, and it is possible, we'll be here. For those of you that have been kind of cheering me on and praying for me through my little episode of back problems, I really appreciate it. And hopefully I'm coming out of that and we'll be back to normal. Hopefully back to work the next day or two, because I'm really not quite ready to retire. So I'm ready to go back to work and do some stuff. But lots of content coming. I know Steve's got some new machines. I've got a couple new machines. A lot more content planned for both the We Create and the X-Tool S1, and hopefully get into some doing some creative stuff as well. But right around Christmas, and I know a lot of you guys have questions about the different machines that are out there on the market, and I am glad to be able to try to assist you in an honest, user's maker's opinion of how these machines are to try to pass that on to you. So I appreciate it, and we appreciate the support. Like Steve said, go join the Laser Engraver community page if you haven't already. Go over and like Steve's page, like mine for sure if you haven't, and then maybe we can do it again next week. So later, guys. Y'all be safe and stay warm down there in Belize and up there in Alaska, and you, Steve, over there in South Canada.
I just want to tell the people that are south of me in Toronto, Canada, to stay warm.
They actually are south of you.
Yes, technically I mean, very, very much east, but also a little south. Yes.
That's ridiculous. You're almost a Canadian. Good night, everybody.
Good night, A.